In 1993, he attended a consumer electronics show, the CES, a CES show. And he still had a whole bunch of stuff from it and was curious if I wanted it because he didn't know what to do with it. And I'm like, wow, yeah, I'm absolutely interested. So he brought some stuff into work. I give it a huge shout out to my friend Mario for this, but it's crazy. And I wanted to share with you guys here on YouTube and take some more closer pictures and video of it all. But yeah, it's basically just a swag bag from the Consumer Electronics Show in 1993. The bag that he got was from Acclaim Entertainment. You can see the Acclaim bag. A lot of this too, it's been in storage and some of it has some water damage. So this is not like mint stuff in here. It's been, you know, stored away. Most of it's intact, but some of it's a little beat up. Then again, I don't really care. It's awesome that I was able to snag this up. But yeah, the Acclaim bag. Truth be told, when I was a kid, I thought that was a K. I didn't know how to spell Acclaim for a long time, so I thought that was a K. A-K-L-A-I-M. Acclaim. But yeah, Acclaim swag bag, and let's see what goodies are inside. Oh, there's lots of stuff inside. This is all what he got. Now, I go to a lot of conventions nowadays, and I've been going for the last 10, 15 years. But I've never been to an electronic video game show or a consumer electronics show, so I thought this was so cool to see all these things. Now, these are all just handouts. Like I said, some of them have some pretty nasty water damage, but here's a flyer from EA that he must have got from the EA booth talking about some electronic arts games. Madden, Bill Walsh, college football, Michael Jordan. Not really that excited about this. Shaq Fu, of course. EA Sports. And here, I'll put this closer. I can set these over right here. And then just some single page flyers like this. I am actually not 100% sure what all is on here, but it is like stuck together and I'm a little afraid to try to pull it apart. But it's a Mortal Kombat flyer. Something else behind it. Looks like, I don't know, something about games and PC stuff. Probably pretty neat, but I can't really get to it. I'm a little too afraid to try. What looks like a poster for Clay Fighter for the Super NES. Kind of a poster, but more of a, not really. It's an Interplay flyer for Lord of the Rings, Claymates, Rock and Roll Racing, Lord of the Rings, or Lost Vikings, Clay Fighter. How cool is that? This is the Multiplayer Games Network. There's a flyer in here. Must have been from another booth. I think these are more board games and stuff, but I think that they converted them to computer games because this is talking about like .net, the internet, and $4 rates and all the 1-800 numbers to connect to. So this must be like an online computer system. And I do remember there's a couple smaller little flyers in here that are connected to these. Here it is. Okay, you're going to keep them all together here. And these are the MPG Net flyers for Star Cruiser, Empire Builder, which is that like Mayfair Games Empire Builder? Like the Rails game, which is amazing. I didn't realize they ever made computer games based on this, but yeah, it definitely is. You can see, I don't know if you can see, maybe you can't, but that's definitely the game. Wow, that's so crazy. Huh. And Drakkar, or Drakkar, looks like a computer game based on the board game, so that's so cool. Yeah, a bunch of flyers from MPG Net. That was from the Consumer Electronics Show. Mortal Kombat flyer, 93, so your fighting games are king at that point. Nintendo's booth. Looks like mostly Nintendo's booth, but this is probably just a big flyer for Follow the Stars to Success. Looks like kind of like a newspaper type ad for what's going on at the show. A lot of Nintendo was going on at the Consumer Electronics Show. Now, back in the day, back in the early 90s, late 80s, we didn't have things like E3. I believe the Tokyo Game Show was still going on in Japan, but we didn't have E3. And in the States, we had something called the Consumer Electronics Show, which did a lot of new electronic stuff, TV networks, maybe not networks, but like the new techie things that are coming out, like VCRs and laser discs and maybe early DVD technologies and things like that, and different types of televisions and stereos and everything like that. A lot of electronic stuff. And then the video games, once that started to become bigger and bigger in the 80s and the 90s, started to show up more and more at CES. And in all old magazines that, you know, I read, like Video Games, Computer Entertainment, EGM, those, even Game Pro, which I wasn't the biggest fan of, but those are huge for the June or whatever month it was. Yeah, June, around the early summer, when a new CES came out. Those were the best times to read those magazines because that's when all the new games were being announced. Now this one's kind of crazy, and I might save it towards the end actually because I want to talk about it towards the end because they're my favorite bits of it. But here this looks like the guide, the show guidebook. And this is just goes over all the events that are happening, the map of the place. And it's beat up, it's been water damaged, but here's a map of what you can see inside. Some events going on, the different things that they have, events going on, computer games, camcorder features, all kinds of stuff. Battery charging stations. It's just crazy. Consumer Electronics Show guidebook. So that's really awesome to see that. This looks like a Capcom flyer. Holy crap, it is. The Capcom Craze Club. Wow, look at that. I don't know how you guys can see this, but Street Fighter, World Heroes, or I'm sorry, World Heroes, the World Warriors. So Capcom World Comic, Mega Man, Future Watch, the SNES, Final Fight 2, Goof Troop, Street Fighter 2 Turbo, Mega Man X, MVP Football, Street Fighter 2 Champion Edition, Mega Man 6, all kinds of craziness. And it looks like this was signed, actually, which I don't know. Oh no, it just says Chun-Li on it. I don't know what that means. Maybe an actress that was there playing Chun-Li at the booth signed it or something, I don't know. But Goof Troop, Final Fight 2, and Mighty Final Fighter on the cover of this one. So that's awesome. So crazy. SWAT Pro. That was the big strategies and tips and tricks magazine that was sort of a spin-off of Game Pro. They just did Game Pro type reviews. It was just a real small spin-off of Game Pro. I don't really know why. That's crazy. It's all like reviews though. It's kind of cool. I've never ever looked at a SWAT Pro before, so I'm like totally getting educated here. But SWAT Pro magazine, I'm assuming that must have been handed out too. That's from July of '93, so that is cool. Uh-oh. Jaguar. Over 50 new 64-bit games previewed. So like, this is when the 64-bit generation of gaming, if you want to call the Jag a 64-bit system, which I don't know if you do, but I don't know. I think it's every bit as 64-bit as this N64 is, whatever you want to call bits anyway. But yeah, this is when the Jag was first coming out in '93. That summer, there was a lot of systems that came out around the same time. I think the CDI, the 3DO, and the Jag were all like the beginning of that next generation after the TurboGrafx and Genesis had started the 16-bit wars. But yeah, Alien vs. Predator, Doom, this is that whole Kasumi Ninja, all this stuff started, but yeah, it's kind of cool. The Jaguar, must have been Atari's booth. The last ever console done by Atari. Sega Visions magazine from June, July of '93. This was Sega's version of their own game magazine. Covered everything Sega, sort of like Nintendo's Nintendo Power. But yeah, Sonic comic book is in it, and wow, that's a pretty violent looking comic. I don't know if you can see that or not, but I don't think you'd see anything that graphic in a Nintendo Power. That's because Sega was edgy, and man, you can't Can't deny how edgy Sega was at that time. Looks like an RBI baseball poster. Don't want to rip it. Wow, that's pretty crazy. Huge poster for RBI Baseball 3. Or 93. Yeah, I don't know if that's going up in this game room or not, but that's kind of cool to have. Oh, well, that one's kind of cool. It's got Tengen games on the back. Gauntlet 4, great game. Awesome Possum kicks Dr. Machino's butt! Oh, classic. There's some pretty cool games in here. A lot of good Genesis games. Pit Fighter 2, I don't believe that ever came out. Paperboy 2, James Bond, The Duel. Interesting. RBI Baseball. Here is a Super Nintendo Power of Choice flyer. It must have been at Nintendo's booth. Look at that. The Super NES, the Game Boy, and the NES. Nintendo's triple play at the time. Uh-oh. What is this? A little piece of tape or something. Okay. That was interesting. But just some things on what each system has to offer and why you should buy them, blah, 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 blah. 3 great systems! Oh, 1993. Nintendo was really pushing both of those systems still. That's crazy. Good times. But yeah. Huh. Interesting. Oh yeah. And then this is awesome, actually. I didn't know. I'm like, it's white on the back, and I don't know what's inside of it, and I very carefully, this time, because I don't want to rip it, opened up a friggin' Lost Vikings poster. Dude! This is like one of my favorite games ever. It is such a fun game. So much fun. The Super NES version, I think, is fantastic. The music is awesome. Man, that is so cool. I am framing this, and this is going on my wall before I get any more of my oily fingers all over it and ruin it some more. Now, the last 2 flyers I think are really cool, and this must mean my friend Mario actually visited the Turbo Duo or the TTI booth at Consumer Electronics Show 93 that I've seen so many videos of online where I saw, I think it was the Airzonk and the Bonk, people in the big costumes were walking around and Bonk was like shaking hands with people and stuff like that. But he must have been there and saw these flyers, and one of them is really beat up, and I feel awful. But I tried to get it separated, and it wasn't any better than this, really, but at least I got it open. But on the cover of this is a Duo, like, handout sheet. It's amazing. Like, it is so waterlogged on this edge, though. It's really beat up. I can't tell what game that is, but, like, there's Lords of Thunder, and here's Magical Dinosaur Tour, I believe, which has some really pretty visuals. It's not really a video game at all. I have no idea what this character's from. I'm guessing Macross, but I'm not sure. And there's the Turbo Duo, and then the Duo, and the logo and stuff. And on the back is all the specs of the Turbo Duo at the time that they were really trying to push. And I've seen video of these, like, of these specs in this time period when they were trying to push, sort of like the last real serious push for the Turbo was at the Consumer Electronics Show in 93, and they actually really pushed out like at least a new game like every month or every other month at that time, which was really impressive for a console that was really on its way out. It was being pulled out of most stores, and the only way you could get games was through the 1-800-DUO-THIS or Turbo Zone Direct hotline. On the inside is where they talk more about the Turbo. They that classic picture that I always saw in magazines with the 5 controllers and the hookup and everything, so you could play Bomberman 93, 5 players, which was amazing. I believe this here is a picture of Gate of Thunder. Can't really see any of it, but I could see the bar, so I'm like, okay, there's Gate of Thunder. And then they're advertising for the music player that you can, the Jimi Hendrix Experience, the Turbo Duo karaoke machine, which I have never seen. I don't know if it was ever really released. And then the intelligent link that you can hook up to computers to make it as a CD drive for computers, which I don't know if ever really came to be a thing, but they had it. But there's also some like screenshots of different games. Like here's Terraforming, and I think that's Macross Wars, that strategy one. Bomberman 93, Riot Zone, Sherlock Holmes 2, Might and Magic 3, Magic Knight, or I'm sorry, not Magic Knight, Magical Chase, Lords of Thunder, Dungeon Explorer, Bomberman, Cotton, and Beyond Shadowgate. But yeah, this huge flyer, not a huge flyer, but this 2-page flyer, like, so cool. I can't believe that he picked this up, and I mean, it must have been sitting in an attic or in a bag or something for years, and it just got wet and damaged, and it's so sad. But that's pretty cool. That's pretty awesome. And then this was the coolest thing I think I've ever seen from this swag bag, was the Club Duo video game catalog, which was actually, this is before the 1-800-DUO this or the TZD ones, which I've got too. I've got 2 of those old ones too. But this is like a video game catalog that came out in '93 about games that they were planning on coming out with later. So they have like release dates and everything for games, some games that we never even got. So it's like, oh man, I can't believe that happened. I mean, I can't believe this is in here. It's so cool. I've never seen this in person before. But like, here they got some flyers for games that are coming out. And the release date for November of this year, Godzilla, which I think was actually pushed into '94 a little bit. Darkwing Duck, which already had come out that year. Legend of Hero Tonma, I believe came out already. Buster Brothers, World Sports Competition. It's interesting too because a lot of these games had already been released at the time. So like they were basically just saying like, look at all these games that we've got coming out this year and later this year, and it's awesome. I thought '93 for the Turbo was like an amazing year. In all seriousness, I mean we got Lords of Thunder, Bomberman '93. Those are both like A+ games. Sim Earth, which is Sim Earth. It's the same on every console. If you want it for the Turbo, if you love the game, you probably would love the Turbo version. Riot Zone, 1-player Final Fight clone. Good music. It's a fun little beat 'em up. Dungeon Master, a really good version of Dungeon Master. Magical Chase, the rarest cue card there is. It's a very fun game though too. Bonk 3, Bonk's Big Adventure. This is the cartridge version, which came out in August of '93. Sherlock Holmes 2. Dungeon Explorer 2, which came out in September '93, and then that famous ad about like, if you think it looks this good standing still, imagine what it looks like at 300 revolutions per minute. I think that's what it is. But anyway, but like, and then it's got the stack of pretty much every CD game that ever came out from like 1990 to 1993, which is not a lot, but it's funny that they had the big stack there, like it's some big deal or something. Or like, look at all these games. And Battle Load Runner was supposed to come out in October of '93. We never got it in the US. It's so sad, because it would have been so much fun. Oh my god. And then Macross 2036 SLG, which I believe, I don't know what that means, but it's a strategy war game. Only ever came out in Japan. I don't know how far they got with the translation on that, but man, I'd love to find out. Camp California, or reverse translated, or whatever. Macross 2036, the shoot 'em up version. Oh, I bet you that's a screenshot that I couldn't tell what it was before. Macross, so like that was planned on coming out. I always heard about that one. I always wanted that one so bad. I thought it was going to be so cool. And then it got canceled because, well, the Turbo wound up going under. But Might and Magic 3, great game. Beyond Shadowgate, one of my favorite games ever. Vastille. Now Vastille, I didn't realize that came out in April of '93. Like I swore this game was like '92 or earlier than that even, but it must not have been. Here's this is the craziest one. Okay, Exile 2, we know about that one. But King of Monsters 2, I don't even think that came out in Japan on the arcade card. Like, wow. I mean, could you imagine being a Turbo Nut and like flipping this open and seeing like King of Monsters 2, King of the Monsters 2 was like being planned for the Turbo, like. And it says 1993 Working Designs. Working Designs was going to bring this over to the US. Damn it. World Heroes. This one also says 1993 Working Designs. Could you imagine if we would have gotten World Heroes in the US? I mean, I take it or leave it. I mean, whatever you think about World Heroes yourself, I really like the World Heroes games. I always thought they were really fun. and they were just an alternative. It wasn't Street Fighter, it wasn't Mortal Kombat, it wasn't Fatal Fury, it was its own thing. I thought it was really fun. I loved it in the arcades, and I loved the home conversions on the Super Nintendo, and when they wound up actually coming out in Japan for the Super CD-ROM for the Turbo, but and then an ad for Duo Force or Turbo Force, which I don't think was going to be going on much longer than that. And then all the games, the TTI hardware and software library, continuations, and then what software, all the prices and games that you can buy, like, oh my goodness, the games that are in here, the coming soon list. Magical Chase, $49.99. Maybe picking up a couple of those would be a good idea. And then a little back cartoon insert from that. But how crazy is this? The Consumer Electronics Show, 1993, flyers and swag bag, just stuff that was handed out. And it was like a guy that's lived in town here forever, you know, and I didn't even know that he had any of this stuff for the last like 22 years, 21 years. And it's like, man, I love this. This is awesome. This is so cool. This is like totally going to get looked at and enjoyed and shared with all our friends and the community and whatnot. So, wow, just awesome. I mean, especially these last two Turbo things are so cool. But just to see the whole thing, and now I'm going to be able to go through the catalog and read up on everything and see what's all going on, or what was going on 21 years ago at the Consumer Electronics Show. But, you know, I just wanted to share that with you. I thought that was a really cool thing. It just like out of the blue, like, hey, you're interested in old games, aren't you? I'm like, yeah, sure. You know, anytime anybody has ever asked me that, like, oh, you like old games, right? Or, oh, you like old stuff. I'm like, yeah. It always, and then they're like, come on over, I got a box of stuff. And anytime that happens, like almost every time, it's always like, I get there and it's a box with like a PS2 and a couple games like Gran Turismo and like Madden 04. You know, like, awesome, that's really cool, thank you, I appreciate it. You know, I like PS2 a lot. I like it. But when I think retro, I don't think of that. I think of like Atari, Sega, Nintendo, Turbo. Like that's my like childhood. It's the majority of my childhood. But when I saw this, I just couldn't believe it. Like Consumer Electronics Show '93, that is insane. I mean, wow, that is so cool. But anyway, I thought it was cool, and I was really excited about it, so I figured I'd share it with you guys. If you have any questions or you have any ideas on what you'd like me to do with this stuff, go ahead and leave me a comment in the comment section below, and I will do whatever you guys want me to do, except for boob shows. I'm not likely to do those.